Hello, you're watching Telecom TV. We are at the Internet of Retail event in a place called Gerrards Cross, which is north of London, sort of in the countryside, stockbroker belt sort of place. And I'm talking with Kass Hussain, Director of Connected Homes at Centrica. Kass, welcome. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Centrica is a utility, one of the biggest utilities in Britain. Gas, generally. Maybe one or two other bits and pieces we can talk about later. Now, the Internet of Things as a concept is so huge and so overarching that a lot of people find it really difficult to get their heads around it, to take it in, to know where to start. Literally, where do I start with this? And that makes it very difficult to sell the concept and to determine how much benefit you can get from it. So what's happening seems to be is that focus is being put on vertical markets, such as retail, which is the place we're at now, or utilities, or agriculture, or chemicals, or whatever it may be. When people see themselves in that area of expertise and they know what they're talking about, they go, right, now I know what the Internet of Things means as it applies to me. Okay, so my first question to you is, how does the Internet of Things apply to you in Centrica?
So how it applies to us in Centrica is in lots of different ways. If I go back just to your first question, which was, how do you get your head around some of this? I would recommend a couple of ways of doing this. The first way to do this is you really need to get an appreciation of what this technology is, because it is really diverse. Every part of your business can be touched by the Internet of Things. So probably the starting point is understand the technology and understand what it can do. Sure. The second part is probably have a look at some of the other vertical sectors that are applying the Internet of Things and just see how they're taken this technology and used it in what they're doing in their business model. Yep. The third thing is then you can move back to your own business case, because those first two will help you get some data points and some reference, and then you can look at your business and say, okay, how can I take this technology and apply it in my business? And it could be everything from your inventory and stock management through to through to the customer-facing products that you apply. So it's extremely broad, and I think you'll need a collection of people in your organisation to help you try and understand the applicability of this technology for you. Now, for us in Centrica, we're using this technology in a number of different ways. Centrica actually is an international company. We do more than just what we call downstream, which is British Gas. We have two energy businesses, British Gas in the UK and Direct Energy in Houston, Texas. But we've also got what we call a midstream business, which is responsible for distribution of energy, and we actually have a part of the company that's responsible for acquiring that gas, oil, whatever it is we need. Where we're looking at the Internet of Things is a number of different ways. I mean, the most immediate way is we're looking at the products and services that we provide to customers. So it's a very consumer-facing product for us. Give you an example, 40 to 50% of your energy bill today is on heating and hot water in your home. Therefore, providing a heating control product to help you manage that more efficiently is applicable to us. We are also looking at something called distributed energy generation. So how can we use lots of small power plants and aggregate that and put that back into the grid? So there's a huge number of applications, and we're looking at it across our business model.
Now, much discussion of the connected home. You're intimately involved in that. You have a product called Hive, do you not?
That's correct.
Tell us what that is.
So Hive is actually a family of products, but what we did, so as not to confuse consumers, was to keep it very, very simple. We talked about heating controls for the home. And that's an easy way, to your earlier point, it's a confusing and bewildering array of technologies and products. And customers often look at it and go, wow, that just feels a bit intimidating. So we were single-minded about saying, let's start with the biggest impact that we can have. And since we pipe energy into your home and 40 to 50% of your energy consumption is on doing heating and hot water, we'll provide you a product to help manage your energy more efficiently. One example is, we knew that 7.8 million homes in the UK every day are being heated, yet they're empty. And when you look at why, it's a range of reasons, from I can't understand my thermostat and program it, it's through to someone in my household does it, I don't know how to do it, to I've got irregular life schedules and therefore it's on a programmer and I can't influence it. So the ability to remotely control that is phenomenally powerful, and we've seen huge amount of success with that. But now we're looking beyond that into the rest of the home, and we're starting to look at, we've just launched our smart plugs. Number one use case is people often leave home and they get this sudden pang, oh, did I turn off the hair straighteners, which I had with my wife, or...
I was going to say, you don't need them.
I don't need them. I'd like to have hair to be able to need that hair straighteners, but have I left the iron on? And it's called power paranoia. People get this pang of, have I actually switched it off? And the ability to just open up an app and control that and check if it's off is a great peace of mind. After your loved ones and your family members, your home is one of the most important things. So knowing the windows are closed through contact sensors, knowing if anyone's walking around at home, motion sensors. So we're starting to branch into other parts of the home where we can help customers in their everyday lives, and that's from providing them peace of mind and reassurance through to actual control at home.
People like the idea, I know well, of having that sort of control and the ability through an app or through a handset to be able to control things like that. But there also is concern about various things. We did a survey at Telecom TV recently on IoT, and what we found from that was the main concerns were, first of all, security, which is the old bugbear, not knowing whether everything that's in your house which is wireless, whether it's secure, where the data is going to, can it be hacked into, etc. And the other thing was the lack of an ecosystem and standards. So can we take those in turn?
Sure, of course.
What about security?
Let's talk about security. So security is absolutely paramount. So first thing I should say is I insist that I and my team are also consumers of our own products. Don't try and sell something if you don't use them. I have 2 children in my house. I'm really worried about making sure that any data or anything going in my house doesn't compromise them in any shape or form. So the first thing is I start as a consumer. We absolutely try and adhere to lots of standards to make sure that we're secure. Making sure the apps are secure, making sure our servers are in the cloud are secure, making sure that the products that we install in your house are secure. And we do that ourselves. We do that through third-party independent verification, because there may be a case of marking your own homework, or sometimes you just don't realise something that someone else outside may be able to help you with. So we invest a lot of time and money. And so therefore, I believe we have created something that is very secure. And as I say, I'm saying that as a consumer and as a business person. And let's look at it commercially. Look, being really frank with you, nothing could be more damaging for business than the day that a security leak or a security breach happens, because what you're going to do is destroy confidence not just in your company and your products, but also within the sector and the industry. So I think everyone who's in this sector has an obligation to make sure that we're adhering to very tight standards. So that's the first thing. The second thing around ecosystems, I agree, it's very, very important. We believe, if you start from the place that consumers are going to want to purchase products and services from a range of suppliers, the ability to interoperate those and make sure that they work is really critical. But actually, what we think is really important before even that step is just making sure we offer great quality products that work first time, every time. So we've had a lot of focus on making sure we get that quality up. We are moving to those ecosystems where we can, whatever you choose, interconnect in some shape or form. And we're starting to see an emergence of standards now out there that allow everything from pieces of hardware and devices to connect to your radio standards, right through to how that presents itself in your app on your phone.
Can we just do a little bit more on standards, Kass? Been talking to people here over the past day or so about standards quite a lot. And yes, there are standards bodies out there that are working towards making sense of the plethora of stuff that's going on. But it seems, do you not think it quite likely that some big organisations, simply by dint of the number of devices that they're delivering and monitoring and so on, will come up with something which is a de facto standard, even though it's proprietary? And we don't want to get stuck in the same old thing we had with the various mobile phone standards, or even to this day, to this very day, TV standards. There's no universal global standard for television. The Internet of Things is going to be a global phenomenon. Sure. Do you not think we should have global standards for that? Is it possible?
Well, it should be possible, and I think we are seeing that. I mean, look, let's take a great example. I know you cited the telecoms industry, but one of the reasons that GSM was very successful in Europe and then globally was because it had a centralised single body where all of the players got together and devised a standard.
Yep.
That isn't the case today in the Internet of Things. We have got a huge array of organisations and companies, all some valid and some not valid, believing that they've got the standard that's going to be the one that wins out. We are not particularly precious about any particular standard. We believe there should be standards because that interoperability to help consumers weld all these things together is important. But what we're not going to do is try and mandate that standard. Now, take your point, as a large player in the industry, certainly within the UK, we're the largest smart thermostat provider. We have a role to play with those standards. And so for us, it's standards from Zigbee through to looking at the Thread standards. So there are a range. I think we're still very much in the early days. And consumer awareness is growing and it's becoming increasingly important. But I'll go back to my earlier point. I think the ecosystems, an array of products can actually confuse and scare consumers. That is why we have been very single-minded about getting that message across about 1, 2, 3, 4 products, then open up into those standards. So you will hear a lot more about us this year. And we're already using common standards today. So for example, all of our devices today use something called Zigbee.
Yeah, I know it.
And so that's the common standard. So you can take most Zigbee devices, plug them into our hub and connect them and go away. Now at the moment, as I say, we're very cautious about opening up the Wild West. One of the successes and one of the common complaints within the industry is reliability, making sure this damn thing works first time, every time. Now when you open up to lots of suppliers, you are no longer in control of that quality.
Yeah, exactly.
That will come, but right now we're curating the best possible products and services we can, making sure they really work, then opening up those systems so that other third parties can connect with them. But we'll set some standards for those, and I don't mean just standards as in protocol standards, but I mean standards of reliability and quality to make sure that consumers get a great experience. Because ultimately, when something goes wrong, the customer will look to us as the provider of the platform, both the hub that we provide in the home and in the cloud, as the entity or the body that's responsible for that. So I think we've got a long way to go yet. I think we've got a very, very early stage of this evolution, and yes, we're absolutely keeping our eye on that and making sure. We're actually building stuff quietly in the background, which I don't want to talk about today.
All right, fair enough.
We're getting ready for this world where you have to interoperate with whatever's out there.
Okay. What do you make of the potential or the possible role for the service provider, the traditional telecommunications type service provider, network operator in the Internet of Things and the connected home and the smart home and all the rest of it? They have enormous networks which are spending vast amounts of money to transform, to virtualize, SDN, NFV, the cloud, the whole shooting match. They're doing all of that. They've got lots of experience with IoT through the telemetry. They've been doing it for donkey's years. It's how you used to get your phone bill, after all. So they've got lots of experience there. But I've spoken to a lot of people who say, well, we're not sure whether they have much of a role as far as we're concerned. And I must say, these do tend to be the smaller companies. But they say they're slow, they're sluggish, they're a bit old-fashioned, they're very hierarchical, and once you're in with them, you can't escape. You're locked in. What's your take on that?
I think anyone who dismisses anyone is probably being a bit premature and perhaps a bit foolish. I would say that service providers have got some great assets, as have British Gas and Centrica, in order to play within this ecosystem. I mean, let's look at the range of things that they're very good at. They're very good at talking to people and communications through call centres, setting airtime contracts. They've got retail presences. They've got a familiarity with technology. They've got existing customer bases, so huge commercial relationships. So I think, look, and we're seeing this already in North America, for example. So you have AT&T with Digital Life. So I think, look, it's early days. I think they may not necessarily be the first of the party, but they're huge players with very significant footprints and customer bases. I think we should just allow the time to see how that happens. They've got other capabilities like people that go around in homes, so engineers that visit you. So I think they've got lots of assets, and I'm not dismissive of that at all. But I also think, like where we are today, the Internet of Retail, retailers have actually got an exceptionally important role to play in all of this, because the consumer awareness of these products is still quite low.
It is.
It's very, very low.
And people are wary of it.
People are wary of it, so even when they understand it or are aware of it, they're not quite sure if it's applicable to them. So I think going back to the Internet of Retail, I think where retailers can play a role is helping customers understand what these products and services are. You can get it, but you don't actually really get it till you've tried it. So bringing that to life. And I think how we talk to customers in the retail is going to be really important. So one of the things, I mean, I think the way we've traditionally looked at categories may not be the thing that retailers have to do in the future. So I'll give you an example of this. Amazon Echo, great example.
Yep.
they've created this voice recognition device. Well, what you can actually do now is talk to this thing and it'll actually order something for you on Amazon. So you've got an example of a retailer that's joining up the dots across technology, products and services, and its retail outlets. So I think joining up those dots is the way that we'll get some success in this area. So I'm not dismissive of the service providers you've talked about. I think they will have a role, whether that's themselves or through partnership, to be seen.
Last question to you. Put your goggles on. I know you're a motorcyclist, so that might be quite appropriate. But what do you think the connected home, the smart home, is going to look like? Not in a generation's time, because nobody can see that far ahead. But over the next couple of years, do you see this thing ramping up and taking off very, very quickly? And what do you think, in addition to things like the smart thermostat and so on, what's going to be next? And we've heard about the fridge that orders your milk for you and all that kind of thing. But applications that have serious meaning right now.
Okay, so I think anyone who tries to predict the future is guaranteed to be wrong, so I won't be so bold as to necessarily make all those claims. But I think, let's talk about a decade. You and I won't be talking about this stuff, the IoT, the Internet of Things. I don't think we'll be talking about these technologies, and the reason I don't think we'll be talking about them is because they'll just become part of the fabric of your home. So in the same way, and by the way, I'm old enough to remember when we didn't have remote control with TVs. Now, would you buy a TV without remote control?
No.
You wouldn't. But do you talk about it? No. It's just a technology. It blends into the background, and I think that's what good technology is. It just blends into the fabric of your home, and that's why I don't think we'll be talking about it. I think it'll be pervasive. And the reason I think it will be pervasive is because it solves real problems for customers and people in their day-to-day lives. So heating, I cited the example, 7.8 million homes empty every year being heated. We can become much more efficient through remote controls. Actually, it can be, and we see this, a lot of people use it from the comfort of their home because it's far more convenient to get up than get up and walk to the thermostat. They want to use it at home. So heating will be one entry point for customers. For other customers who are looking not necessarily for heating controls, but maybe looking for peace of mind and reassurance. So security may be another entry point for those customers. Lots of stuff in your kitchen, your white goods, electronics goods around your house, they're all becoming increasingly connected. And I think people want the ability to control those through their app, and these systems talk to each other. So I think what will happen is there'll be multiple different points of entry for different customers, from security through to energy management. It could also be, it's a horrible term, so forgive me for this, but something called assisted living or the well-being and care market, where we've got an increasingly aging population. Parents are fiercely independent, don't want their kids encroaching on their lives. So therefore, the kids become reliant on products to help them out, make sure they're up and about. That could be one entry point. I think there's a multitude of ways of coming in, and I think what we'll see is people buying one, starting in one of these points of the journey, and then building it up. Building it up, and over time, as I say, we won't be talking about it.
Fascinating interview from somebody who really knows the stuff. Kass Hussain, thanks very much.
Brilliant, you're welcome, thank you.